Okay, so seriously, you can't make me laugh that much before we go live. So I'm not crying, y'all. I'm just laughing.
Guess whose birthday it is? It's Kristie's 50th birthday. So I've been wearing this hat all day long. I woke up early. I'm so excited because Kristie turned 50 today.
Yeah, and I've been wearing this hat all day, my Boulder Valley peeps, because my hair is such a hot mess, and I turned 50 today. It is my favorite hat. And then I got my very favorite t-shirt.
So
Are
good.
we going to have t-shirts at SLI this year?
Oh yeah, we're going to have t-shirts at SLI this year. I'm like in the middle of drafting a bunch of ideas. So if you have SLI t-shirt ideas, send them my way because they could turn into a beautiful V-neck or scoop neck
You
t-shirt.
could look as good as me at 50.
Right. Okay. Happy birthday. Yay.
All right. So really, SLI, sorry, Summer Leadership Institute. Hey, Micah.
Hey, Micah.
So what Julie and I thought we would do today was help y'all with your Zoom makeovers. Help you with your Zoom meetings by giving them a makeover.
Yes.
And so we're going to give you tips and ideas, but we're also going to explain how we're using these tips in the Summer Leadership Institute. All right?
Right. So,
do you want to tell them what else I got for my birthday other than the shirts?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You tell them.
Well, are you talking about
the 50?
Oh, yeah. That's what I was just about to pull up. So I just surprised Kristie and said, guess what? I had a few minutes, and so I was like, I want to think of 50 ways to improve a Zoom do a Zoom makeover, because we were planning to share 7, and then I was like, what if I did 50 to surprise her for her 50th birthday? So I have a list of over 50 ways to make any Zoom meeting or any instructional online practice better. And we're going to figure out how to make sure you can get them. Right now, it's a list in a Word document, and Kristie will make them cute, and then we'll make sure that you can get them. Go ahead.
I said put my email in the chat, so you can just email me if you want to make sure you get it. But if you're coming to the Summer Leadership Institute, you'll get it. If you follow or go to the website, I'll make it easy.
Perfect. So someone's already thinking about mirror neuron t-shirts. Yes, that's brilliant.
Don't distract us with good ideas.
That's okay. Today, just put in all the good ideas that you're having on a Friday, just right into the chat, and we'll make them come true. So we are knowing that educators and administrators are creating Zoom meetings, Zoom classrooms, online classrooms, and you're feeling a little like, I can't think of one more fun way to do it. So we are going to share with you several really cool ways to make things more exciting. And then, like Kristie said, these are all ways we're going to make the Summer Leadership Institute really cool, because we like to practice what we preach. So we like to show people how to make things more fun and engaging and interesting, and then people can take them and use them in their own practices.
And I'm not crying. Julie just made me laugh really hard right before we were getting on. So, okay, so we're going to be serious. And then because we practice what we preach, any of you who know me know I have a mantra of what before how. So you're all like, how do we make Zoom meetings better? And I'm going to be like, what are you trying to accomplish during your Zoom meeting before you think about the 50 ways Julie can help you make it more fun? So after Julie tells you the fun, which is really the how, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tie it to what was the objective in the first place. Why did we use that tip or that strategy then? So which one do you want to start with?
Let's start with setting up your instructional space. Okay. This is one that I've been teaching on with lots of educators, and people are using it immediately, and it's been really fun. So we forget that our learners are, in their own homes, and we forget that we can set up their learning space in any way they want. So this picture is really awesome. So Kristie pulled a picture of a really cool fort, and it reminded me of my summer. One summer, I created a reading nook in my closet, and I had light, and I had a bookshelf of all the books I was going to read, and I got to decorate it, and I had a blast doing it. And so what people can do is help their learners think about their needs by setting up their learning space. These are ideas I have for you. Can you put a blanket in your learning space? Can you have paper and colorful markers in your learning space? crayons, all kinds of writing utensils. Could you bring a pillow from your bed into your learning space? I just suggested this and someone told me their fourth grader used it. So my suggestion was take bubbles. If you have bubbles in your garage or something, and the fourth grader said, every time I got it right, I celebrated by blowing bubbles. Now that's just genius. And by having your learning space ready for that kind of stuff, students can experience all kinds of sensory things. Maybe, Kristie, I'm jumping into the why, but I am going to jump into the why for a minute. The why of it is we want to make learning comfortable, and we want to make learning exciting, and we want to make learning sticky. We want it to really stick with people. And so students are going to remember the time that they got to blow bubbles when they got it right or when they had a cool idea. I have many more ideas, but you can make sure that students have their snacks and their fidgets and they're standing if they can. I have another student he's a sixth grader, and he is a student with the label of ADHD, meaning he loves to move when he learns. And he took his parents' treadmill and he figured out how to walk all day long while he's learning. And he said, I've never been more focused in my life. So genius. Those are examples.
And I know somebody else who walks all day and never thought more, right? So
right.
When we think about this for adults as well, and Julie, come back and do some more examples, but if we invite people, so if you are the teacher or you're the administrator or whoever's running the Zoom meeting, make it known ahead of time that you expect people to be in a comfortable place. Not that you're just dressed from the waist up and looking like you're ready to learn, but that you're really comfortable. And if that means keeping cameras off, then that might be what you have to do if it's too distracting. But really inviting people to move and get outside if they can, lay down when they need to, turn upside down when they can, instead of just like being on from the waist up.
So in a classroom, brick and mortar classroom, Kristie and I think this is really important. We don't think learning looks like this. We don't think it looks like this. It doesn't look like sitting up tall, hands on the desk, feet
eyes on the camera.
Yeah, that's not what learning looks like. And so we have to make sure our learners hear that, and see us represent that. I used to use something called working ways when I was teaching in school. I don't think I've ever told you this, Kristie, but I had this whole list of working ways on my board. And I had a student who came up to me and said, we need to add another working way. And I was like, well, what? Because I thought I had every possible working way. He's like, we need Michelangelo style. And I was like,
yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, so you mean we're going to write on the ceiling? And he said, no, we'll just put stuff under our desks and we'll be upside down and working that way. And I can't explain how many students chose that as a working way, but we have to help learners understand that our bodies and our minds work together in ways that we've got to be really thoughtful about making sure we're honoring our needs.
And so at the Summer Leadership Institute, we are going to model it. Each morning, Julie and I are going to have a walk and talk that you can join us. So we're going to be on our walking treadmills each morning or out down walking the lane and meeting with people and really encouraging movement and stretching and comfort, I guess is the word that comes to my mind. And so we've got 6 more, but just know that Julie gave us 50 ideas today. And so this is what we call the mix of 6. And so when you think about preparing your learning space and you think about, okay, why did we do that? Why did we do the Michelangelo style? Or why did we have a pillow? Or why did we let people walk and talk? It's not just because, isn't that the neatest, fun fidget? It's really tied back to our outcomes. And so for this one, I'm just going to look at my notes, Julie, to make sure I get it right. When we think about preparing your learning space, one of the objectives is we want people to learn how they learn. So become advocates and understand this is how I best learn. So just like Julie's student who came up and said, hey, there's something missing here. There's also the goal of, and maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger, Julie, so that people can see it. I'll make it as a handout too, and I'll put it in the chat right now that you can download this mix of 6. But it's also part of a caring goal, and it's also part of emotional intelligence and application. So just preparing your learning environment gets you 4 of this mix of 6. And the idea is that you would have a mix of 6. Let me see if I can get this back on. That when you have a mix of 6, you have the best learning outcomes possible. And so you're looking for anything you do to hit all 6 objectives. So just by following some of the ideas Julie shared about arranging the learning space, you hit 4 of them.
Right. And so that mix of 6 is really, really smart. Anytime you're preparing any kind of professional development, any adult learning, you want to make sure you're hitting at least 1 from each. Let's talk next about homerooms. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'll be get that queued up.
Okay, cool. So we're going to be having at the Summer Leadership homerooms. What that's going to look like is you're going to be, so people from the Summer Leadership will be coming from all over the world, and you're going to get to connect with a smaller group of people, and we're going to help support and guide you with homerooms. So the concept of homerooms is learning from and learning with other people, having small conversations, all those kinds of things are going to be happening at the Summer Leadership Institute. And now I want to kind of extrapolate that further. So if you're teaching online, some small groups you can create. And we're going to have one of these at the Summer Leadership Institute, a side conversation room, a room where people can go and have side conversations. We're going to have rooms based on interest. So let's imagine at this Summer Leadership Institute, people are focused or laser focused on reopening school. There might be a whole room for let's talk about reopening school. What are you doing in Australia? What are you doing in Texas? What are you doing in New York, right? We're going to have rooms based on opinions. So if you agree, you're going to go here. If you disagree, you're going to go here. If you're not sure yet, you can go here. You can talk to like-minded people, and then we're going to switch it up. Those are ideas for groups to create. You can also do them randomly, as you well know. And then you can base them on comfort. Like, I totally understand this information. I'm ready to learn more. Or let's review this. I want to make sure it's really solid. Or, hey, let's start from the beginning, right? I want to hear this one more time. So letting our learners choose what room to go to based on what they currently need. Those are small groups that you could create. So we're going to have homeroom themes. And then, of course, we're going to have roles to take on within those rooms. And that's one of my other favorite parts.
Let's tell them that one, though. Let's just use the Love Boat one.
Okay.
So I'll set you up. So what happens is that many times you put people into breakout rooms. So if you're a Zoom person, you know there are breakout rooms. And if you got over your fear of pushing the button to send them out and bring them back with all magic, you're like, but what are they doing in there? And now you maybe have gotten even braver and you went and checked on them. And then people are in there going, what are we supposed to be doing? How long are we in here? What do we have to bring back with us? What do we, and everybody's like, what? And so Julie has this brilliant idea, but it's not the normal way of like, you're the recorder and you're the timekeeper. So she came up with these roles for your homeroom. And
yeah.
The Love Boat theme, yeah.
Yeah, so the Love Boat theme is one idea. I don't know if I'm going to come up with a different theme for this year. I may or may not. But so Love Boat, if you're on with us on Facebook, name any of the characters on the Love Boat. If you are probably...
I was going to say Gilligan, and I'm like, no, that's the wrong show.
That's the wrong show, yeah. So if you're...
Julie McCoy. I'm Julie McCoy.
Okay, Julie McCoy. So there's a Julie McCoy role, and that is the social director and the fun haver, right? So when you get in that room, you're like, you might have a conversation starter. You might have a way to get things going as a Julie McCoy. You might be the captain. So if you remember Captain Steubing, he's the captain. So you might be the captain. The captain really follows kind of the agenda, the rules. You might be, so when we did this at the Real Summer Leadership Institute in real life, we had a bartender. So Isaac, if you remember, was the bartender.
Oh my gosh, I'd want to be the bartender now.
Yeah, so
Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac, yeah. And so Isaac would bring back beverages to people's groups, which was super fun. You can have the gopher. You can do all kinds of things, like the gopher might get and support people in all kinds of ways. So we're going to use a theme for sure around our roles that are going to be based on being online, and I can't wait to reveal them.
All right, which one next? So that's our second tip. What's our third?
You pick the third, or I'm looking at our third.
I kind of did the side room convo conversation. I do think, let's just say that again, because I think it's so respectful, and I'll just tell people which mix of 6, and then you just kind of explain how it looked in real life. I don't know what to call it, in person, and then I'll come back to how it looks. So in the mix of 6, the side conversation rooms are working on connections and caring. So those 2 of the 6, connections and caring. So what are we going to do this while we're in Zoom? How are we going to have side conversations?
Yeah, so you well know that like if you're at the summer leadership, we'll have 600 administrators in a room, the main room, all sorts of awesome things are happening. And then there's this space where people sort of head to, and people have side conversations back there. That is actually part of the human brain regulating. It is okay, it is welcome, it is good, and we recommend it. And so we're going to create a side conversation room at our virtual Summer Leadership Institute, so you can pop in and have side conversations about things. So if I were in real life with Kristie at the Summer Leadership Institute and someone said something really provocative or interesting, I might text her and say, meet me in the bathroom, I want to talk about this, right? And she would probably join me, right? All of us have done this. That's what learners do. But now we have a sanctioned way to do that. And nobody's in trouble for doing it. We expect it. And we actually welcome side conversation.
Yeah. And we're not going to record it. And we're not going to have a monitor in there. But it's a place where people can just step out and go, what did you think of that? Because we have scheduled times to have Q&A and to debrief and to network. But what if you want to say it right now? I remember my best friend, Wendy Bennett. She was a B, right, because her name's Bennett, and I was Kristie Pretti, so I was with a P. And so we always sat alphabetically. That kind of rhymed. And so we never got to sit by each other.
Right.
Because she was in B and I was in P. And there were so many times that I wanted to say something to her, and I wanted to share it just right then. Not when the teacher said go and get into a group, or not when the bell rang and we had to transition to the next period. And so the side conversation is really saying, while the neurons are firing, what can you do to have that conversation that's not distracting of the whole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to have a side conversation room. And we want you to think about that. If you're an educator, if you're an administrator, if you run Zoom meetings, create space for that, because we know it's happening, and it's probably happening over text. And people are kind of hiding it. But let's just be really clear. Like, it is okay to do that.
So Pam, ask me your question again, just to make sure I understood it. Which one do you want to do next, Julie, while Pam's helping me understand?
Oh, great.
Decluttering or I Spy?
Oh, I was going to say connectors and fast finishers.
Oh, okay, let's do that. Do you have your prop?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
So when we were together, we had something called connectors, and we had something called fast finishers. And I don't have my fast finishers with us, but what we decided to make them virtually, so you can download them if you come to the Institute. What they are is, I'll just pull a good example. Here's one. What did you learn today that you're planning to do something about? Okay, so it's something that you learned that you're going to plan to take an action about. So you might at any time pull out a connector and make a connection with someone by asking a question. Another example is, would you show me a favorite picture from your phone, right? So you're making a connection with someone by just saying, show me something fun from your phone. That's a personal connection, and it probably will bring up a topic that someone's eager to talk about. So these connectors, we've got lots of them, are going to be downloadable and ready for you to take after the Summer Leadership Institute. So we're super excited about them.
Yeah, so we made 3 types this year. We've got the connectors, and so all of those questions, all digital, so it's just on your phone or your iPad instead of like the really cool ones that Julie has laminated, and you're just going to swoosh through them. So maybe if you're Julian McCoy and you're in your homeroom, you might say, oh, here's a question. So you don't have to come up with it on your own. Because if you're like an introvert and you're like, oh my God, now I'm Julian McCoy and I'm an introvert, what am I going to say that's going to be fun? So we've got that for you. And they're also downloadable so you can reuse them in your life. And then the fast finishers, Julie, maybe just explain when you use a fast finisher.
Okay, so if you're an educator, you're teaching in a classroom and students finish at all different times of the day, finish the task at hand. They finish at different times. And so instead of being surprised that someone's done within 3 seconds of you giving the assignment, you plan for it. And so you've got a whole thing. So it looks just like this, a different color. And then it's, what do I do if I finish the task? And we have thought through all kinds of things that you can do that are fun, that are engaging, that help students learn, and also could be a nice way to take a break in some fashion. So I remember, the reason I remember it, because this guy was so funny at the last Summer Leadership Institute.
Oh,
one of them said, take a Post-it and write, I'm on break, and put it on your forehead. And so this kid and this guy would just randomly do it. And he said to me afterwards, he loved it because he likes to check out and actually just process. And he puts that on. And of course, people laughed at first, but after a while, they were used to it. And it was him just saying like, let me process this information and then I'm ready to engage again. Really funny, but pretty cool. So those are called fast finishers.
And we'll be inviting people to do things like that during the virtual event. Have a packet of sticky notes so that you can say, I'm still here, but I need a minute, Now, Julia, I do that. That could be problematic, but.
I'm not saying I'm not going to do it, Kristie. I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
Okay, so there were like 8 things I wanted to say about that. So Pam, I wanted to answer your question too. The other one, the third type of cards that we'll have that you can download are how to take a break. And so they will be things that are contemplative, things that are get your body moving, closing your brain down, all of that. But some of us need a little bit of help about what should I do on a break. Others are like, you take a nap, duh. But we really want to tell people, schedule in time during the Summer Leadership Institute for a nap. So if you've never taken one before, I personally have never taken one in a long time. I'm going to put one on my schedule. Okay. So Pam, great questions about how many breakout rooms are we using. So a couple things at the Summer Leadership Institute, just so people will know. We're going to have a main Zoom room, and sometimes we will go into a breakout outside of that main Zoom room. Sometimes we will have separate Zooms where things will be happening that you'll go off of your dashboard and go and join. And then there'll always be the side conversation Zoom. So we probably have about 10 Zoom accounts between our team that play different roles. And only sometimes will we be using the breakout feature. Sometimes we're actually using a different Zoom space. So for any of you who are technical, I don't know if that helped, Pam, but yeah.
And Pam, you might just be wondering, like, how many people am I going to be talking to? And if that's the case, we're thinking about best practices for adult learners. So we're thinking that we're going to devise, when we do homerooms, 4 to 6 people, so you can have an intimate conversation with people when we're thinking about those kind of things. Other ones will be based on interest. So maybe it's like, hey, let's go to this room if you want to talk about safety in schools, right? When you return, that kind of stuff. And so that's going to be dependent upon who's interested in that topic. So we're going to vary the group sizes based on what we're asking you to do. And the beauty of working with Kristie is she makes technology feel really comfortable for me. So she's just like, don't you worry. Here's where you go. Push this button, right? We're going to hold your hand every step of the way. So don't get worried that you're going to be hopping all over. It's really going to be like, if you want to go here, and we'll just help you through it. And if you don't understand, we're going to have a whole team of people to help you, which is going to be cool.
Yeah. And thank you. So thanks for all the love and support in the chat. And Edith, I'll try to remember to post. I have this matrix that shows how other platforms that aren't Zoom, you can do some of these same things and still accomplish the same objectives. I put in the chat a matrix for Zoom, but I'll put the one in that is across platforms, so that if you're doing other kind of GoToMeeting, Google Hangout, WebEx, Teams, we don't like them either, no offense, but it's just what you get used to. It's just what you get used to. So
and Edith, I'm so glad, Edith, that you're saying this question. Here's why. When we're saying Zoom, we're honestly meaning almost any online platform. Yeah. We're just really used to Zoom and we really like it, but we don't get paid to do that. So, okay.
All right. So anyway, I don't know if I told you all of the connections back to the, so side conversation, I think I did. I said it was side. Oh, I know which one I didn't do, Julie. Connections. Connectors and fast finishers and bio cards. Those are the caring, early intervention, CSEEI, and I go, early intervention, emotional intelligence. So there's a couple more outcomes. Okay, which one do you want to do next?
Let's do decluttering challenge.
Okay, decluttering it is.
So this is an example of something that we are offering as an option when there's a break, and it's a tiny decluttering challenge. And we just want to we want you to set, let's just say it's a 15-minute break. We're going to ask you to take a before picture of maybe your desk that looks just like that, and then take an after picture and see what you can accomplish in 15 minutes. So the beauty of being at home is that whenever there's break or there's downtime, you can use that time to really get something cool done. It could be, I folded this load of laundry during that break or whatever it is. And we're not pretending that we're not at home. We're actually taking the fact that we're at home and capitalizing on it during breaks and during other times. So we have a decluttering challenge that we'll be using, and I'm pretty thrilled about it.
Yeah. And I was just thinking as you were talking, like, what Julie is amazing about, well, there's a lot of things she's amazing about, but it's like just thinking about very practical and fun. So it's not just fun to have fun. So that particular, the decluttering challenge is actually part of that mix of 6. It's the application. So it's really saying, you know what? I need a space that isn't so visually cluttered that I can learn. And the same thing we go for children or for students. If I have circle time, or I have the front of the classroom, or in my Zoom classroom at home, my whole wall has 852 things to look at. That's visual clutter. And people don't know what to look at. What should I look at? Should I look at her hat? Should I look at her polka dots? Should I look at her drapes? Should I look at her book? Like that, my brain doesn't know what the relevant stimuli is. So the same thing we want to do and model that and say, okay, if this is what my students are seeing behind me or my colleagues, how can I make it less cluttered so that it's not that stressor of visual clutter?
Yeah. And I'm just going to go back to when we were brick and mortar. One of the fast finisher cards was clean something. And when you have 600 people in a room, there are wrappers, there's stuff like that. And I was so surprised how many learners loved to pull that card and go take care of something. It kind of gives you this little sense of accomplishment in the middle of a day where you're really sort of cognitively being challenged. It's sort of like, look at that, how clean this table is, right?
I can do something. Yeah. I may not be able to make inclusion a reality, but I can get a table clean.
I was so surprised at how many learners loved that one. And so that's why we're just building that in for people who want to. Do you have to? No. Do you have to take a nap? Nope. Do you have to go outside? Nope. But we're going to provide options, and we're going to ask you to think about what each of these options do for you as learners. Then we want to think, if you're in charge of schools, how might I convert this or change this or make this work in my high school class, in my middle school class, in my elementary school class, in my early childhood class, or in my school setting or system if you're a superintendent or director of special ed. So anyway, that's probably too much.
Let's do I Spy since we're talking about clutter.
Yeah, clutter. So I Spy is really simple and really fun. I did it with, so here's a perfect example. You might be taking a minute in your rooms with folks and doing I Spy, which is, let's just imagine you pick one of the things. I'm going to secretly pick the paper clip. And I would say, I see something that's silver and shiny, and people start to guess and those kind of things. But you're doing it with people's backgrounds. So you're actually using people's real backgrounds or virtual ones to pick an item. And again, it's just to say, we recognize you're at home, and let's incorporate that into our learning experience.
Yeah, let me see. I'll do yours thing. Like, okay, tell me, because I've been wanting to ask you forever. What's the I Spy something that's got dark blue and light blue and is leaning?
Okay, that piece of artwork right there.
Yep.
Okay. So you want to know what about it?
I don't know what it is because it's so far away and I'm old. I can't see. Oh, I thought I had a whole other thing. I thought it was a kid playing out in the snow.
Yeah. So this is just a piece of art. I love, love, love to paint, and I'm not really very good at it. And so
You made that?
Yeah. So my daughter and I paint a lot. She's actually really talented. And so I like to paint alongside her, but I do what I call 5 to 15 minute paintings. And this is an example of I think a 10-minute painting where, cause that's about as long as I can pay attention to something. So
it's funny because you and I meet like at least once a day on Zoom. And I see that every day. And so every day what I see, I don't know if anybody else wants to try to make up this game with me. Let's make it big again. Like it looks to me like a little kid in a red snowsuit playing in the snow. That's what I see.
Right. And so what's cool about that is we didn't intend to talk about that. But what Kristie learned is that I'm an artist. I don't think you knew that before.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that I really love to do art. And it's a pretty cool way for me to connect to my daughter, who's really pretty talented artist. And so that's an example of making a personal connection that we haven't otherwise made. And I kid you not, Kristie and I are on face like this, I don't know, 10 hours a week, easy?
Real story. Last Friday, we weren't.
It's terrible.
And it was Saturday. And then Saturday night, I said to my husband, I think I did something to offend Julie. I don't think she likes me anymore. Then Sunday comes, and I still haven't heard from her. So I, like a jealous stalker, get on Facebook just to see what she's been doing all weekend without me.
Yeah.
I'm certain there has to be a reason we have not been together.
It makes sense. We spend a lot of time together designing cool stuff. And what happened was my good friends came into town, Katie and Amy. I don't know if you're on this Facebook Live, but they came into town. And if you go to my Facebook page, you can see some of the shenanigans we're up to.
Yeah. And so if you look at the mix of 6, you won't be surprised to go, okay, that was about connections. But it's also about learning how to learn, the I Spy game is, and it's the information outcome. So when you look at the mix of 6, which I'll drop in the chat again, but being, good segue, there's our last one.
Yeah, so this is about, so going way back to the 50 ideas to make any online learning or class more interesting or exciting. It's about how do people share their ideas. So this is just called Everyone Draw, and you can have everyone draw anything and then hold up your idea, hold up your answer, hold up your drawing. So now everyone has something that they're holding up as a response card. And so it could be deep, deep learning. So let's just imagine that we're talking about intersectionality between race and disability, right? So not a light topic. And we're talking about intersectionality between race and disability. And I say, draw what comes to your mind. And everyone stops and draws something that comes to their mind and holds it up. Now we're making really deep connections when it comes to challenging topics, right? Now I've got a visual, now I've got something to talk about. And if you're someone who's going to jump into that breakout room and not know what to say, you have a talking object. And for our kids with disabilities, to come into a room or to come into a group with a talking object means I now know what to start with. So these are just ideas that...
And maybe if people are worried, like so what I just did when she talked about intersectionality is I drew a Venn diagram on my birthday card from Julie, because she really does like me, not her other BFFs. Let's just get real. But it doesn't have to be drawing. Like you don't have to be an artist. It could be just a visual representation. So it could be some color shades and you show the shades, kind of blurred together and blended. And that's what intersectionality means to you. There could be arrows and things. Okay.
So
See,
here's an example. I would take a new piece of paper. That's okay.
Well, that's important.
That's important.
Something important going on at your house.
I don't know what, but it sounds great. It sounds scary. That's an anchor. And I thought about how race and disability and the ways in which we have labeled people by race have been a real anchor, holding a system down, right? And so, Ellen, can you make everybody quiet? I'm just online. Thanks.
No, but that's a really good analogy or metaphor or whatever the word is.
But also my anchor's not pretty. Doesn't matter. I have a way to think about it, right?
Yeah. Now each time each of us hear someone like Bettina Love, who's one of our speakers at SLI, talking about intersectionality, you'll go, oh, right, the anchor. What are the implications? What's the impact of intersectionality?
Yeah, so Giovanna thought about a hurricane funnel. Beautiful. And go ahead and jot in what you're thinking right now, because it's just simply, as soon as you get a visual in mind, you have something to attach your learning to, and it might change and it might shift and it might morph, and you might later go, it's not an anchor at all. It's a blah, blah, blah. But we start with something to connect our learning to.
Yeah. So let's recap then, because people have been great with us. So I'm gonna take myself out and put a couple of visuals up for you if I could make my thing work. All right. Okay.
That's fine. So we're going to just do a quick recap. Today, we wanted to make sure that you understand about how we're making the Summer Leadership Institute much more fun, even though it's on Zoom. And we were really looking at this concept of the mix of 6. We're constantly thinking about how do we make sure that this adult learning experience is effective, is enjoyable, is relaxing, it relates to your emotional intelligence, all of those pieces, all 6, that we're really taking a look at. And all of this, if you're wondering, what is the Summer Leadership Institute? What are you even talking about? I just want to make sure you know, because you have to know and you have to go. We have, if you don't know who the top person is, that's Bettina Love. If you don't know who the middle person is, that's Shelley Moore. If you don't know who the bottom person is, that's Stephanie Traver. These are just 3 of 26 plus, maybe more, speakers that are going to be joining us and providing all sorts of information. This is the early childhood alone lineup. We were going to be talking about race, equity, and inclusion. And some of you are like, oh my gosh, you're kidding. It's a pandemic and we're thinking about opening schools. And here's our response to that. We have to think about race, equity, and inclusion, whether we're thinking about online learning or whether we're thinking about brick and mortar learning. And we actually think this is the perfect moment to restructure and redesign schools and to not continue to replicate inequality. There's going to be virtual. It's all virtual. It's August 3 through 6. Let's say you go, oh, I'm on vacation. Doesn't matter. Sign up and you can go. And that means that you'll get all of this learning. You'll have access to everything forever. If you're a principal, you might think, I want to go and then I want to use some of these pieces in the professional development I create. Maybe you're a learning coach. You should go and you can use some of these pieces in the PD that you create. The topic is leading with 2020 vision, and I love Kristie made this, and I just really like those glasses, and I want to use it all the time. So it's sustainable professional development for an entire year that you can take and use.
Yeah, sorry, I was a little behind you there. So that, and if anybody wants to make sure that they get what we talked about at the top of our Facebook Live, where Julie's, one of her gifts to me. So one of her gifts to me was a whole bunch of t-shirts from past Summer Leadership Institute. So if you don't know their ritual and routine, there's always a theme or a quote or a key phrase, and they turn it into this amazing t-shirt. So one year, do you know what year it was? Was it last year?
No, 2016 was God Inclusion.
God Inclusion. You keep talking, I'll get the other ones.
Yeah, this is our 12th year of the Institute, so it's obviously our first virtual. What Kristie was just asking about, though, is something that I'm calling over 50 ways to make online learning and meetings more fun. So over 50 ways to make online learning and meetings more fun. If you definitely want it, email Kristie. She'll put her email right there, and why don't you just put 50 plus in the subject line? You don't have to send just put 50 plus, and she'll know, oh, you want the over 50 ways to make online learning more fun. So if you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you're an administrator, even if you run a business and you're constantly doing this, we have organized over 50 ways to make things.
And I'll get you the mix of 6, and I'll get you the Zoom, and I'll get you the other matrix that shows you how to do all of these things, not just inside Zoom. Okay, so I thought to show off my birthday presents.
Sure, okay, cool. So this is All Rise. And so this is a Scout Finch quote. And we're thinking the year that we did that was when we used the theme, a rising tide lifts all boats. Mm-hmm. And so the concept that year was that we have to figure out how to bring all of our practices up so that we can raise practices for everybody and then lift others. So we love this quote. And so that was the same year that we talked about that.
I got one more.
Last year. Oh, this is Helen Keller, Together We Can Do Much. This was a whole year where we focused on collaborative efforts around inclusive education and what it means to come together. And then
we'll have some new t-shirts for this year, and so people can get them ahead of time and wear them during the SLI so that we can feel like we're together even though we're not physically together.
Right. Yeah. It's fun. Okay, great. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
If you're still on right now, just put a comment in the chat. So what were your thoughts about today or any questions you have? You could even just say hi. Oh, thanks, Giovanna. Together. And this is the goal, is how do we do this work together? And finally, we're going to have a real international audience, because we're not limited to, it has to be at Syracuse University. We're going to be from all over the world.
Yeah, and we'll recap the case-based typing. So today we gave 7 tips. They were not in any order, but preparing your learning space, homerooms with themes, side conversation rooms, connections and fast finishers, which we've added breaks and bio breaks to that, decluttering challenge, I Spy game, and everyone draw. And those were our 7 tips to how to give your Zoom meeting a makeover.
Yeah. We're getting so much love on the chat. Great. So Sarah said, this is wonderful. I was at your leadership last year and it was incredible. Sarah, we promise it's going to be as incredible. We're going to do everything we can just to make it sort of mind-blowing, like nothing you've ever seen online. So I'm really glad to hear that.
Perfect. Good. All right. Thank you again for all my birthday gifts. And yeah, we'll see you guys August 3rd. How's that?
That's pretty fun.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Happy birthday, Kristie.
Thank you.